So there's a lot of talk around mental wellness, holistic wellness, and very many things. And currently, the kind of situation that all of us are experiencing, whether it's in the country, whether it's globally, it's been something which everybody's been talking in various forums. So, especially if you actually look at, the way, the way organizations are responding to this. Of course, all of us are aware that it's been remote work and it's been, work from home. Where people are working. They've actually moved out with the current lockdown, especially in Delhi, in various parts of the country that we're experiencing the lockdown. People are, managing different kinds of challenges. So with this kind of a different kind of a work culture which has been brought across, and every other month and every other quarter we've been discussing, and it's been like a moving target for us, the way work culture is being built across. um, it's been very evident, and there have been various researchers which have come across, which has been brought across, which talks about the kind of high overload on people. I'm sure all of us are aware about that. We've been talking, it's been heavy. You know what, I've been working from home, I'm managing my family and my work and my deliverables, stiff managers, stiff, challenging goals. It's just not been 8, 9, 10 work hours, but it's just stretching and all of that. So let me actually put a little context before we actually move ahead with today's session. Is about, if you actually look at a work trends 2021 index, which Microsoft has come up with. It talks about some numbers, that will just give us how, what's the kind of gravity that we're talking about. So we are saying one in five people say the employer, they don't care about their work life balance. We are talking about published and established survey inputs. 54% of people, they feel overworked. Around 39% feel exhausted. So all of us are part of this kind of a, detailing that we are saying. And it's been actually shown that with all the kind of digitalization which has come in, there's a fair amount of exhaustion which has come for people which otherwise may not have actually come in. So if you look at the kind of meetings, so the percentage of meetings have gone by 148% more time. I mean, there's more time going into meetings, 45% more time weekly on chats. uh, and then there's 66% more documents being reviewed. So that's just to give you some data points. So another significant input that I'd like to share with you is also Psyche, which Psyche Market Network. It's basically a digital marketplace for jobs and business solutions, etc. They did a very recent survey which talks about work, and one of the major thing which has actually come out is that work stress is taking toll on people's personal lives. So, of course, as we know that it's actually, we have been talking about that it's the work and the personal life, the lines are blurring. But then this is a study which actually shows that. And people at workplace feel communication is something which can help improve the overall, mental state, or the overall mental wellness part of it. And there are various other inputs that Psyche has come out with. Apart from the fact that, of course, 16% say workplaces carry, only 16% say that the workplaces, the offices carry stress management. They actually have a dedicated stress management group to manage the employees. And the other numbers also don't show, they're not very exciting. Then we are talking about focus on employee assistance programs and things like that. Okay. Apart from this, certainly there's one large positive note. 81% of people who have been surveyed, who are part of the survey, say that their organizations have been very supportive. So that's a very good plus, that they've been supportive and they feel good about it. And 83% feel and they understand that it's very important to talk about overall health and especially mental wellness. So, and I think that's also a very good point. So, with this kind of a, some of the data points that we have, It's going to be very important for us to see that with all this kind of environment which is there, today's session, we are going to be looking at how are organizations looking at systems to identify and address various ways of, mental wellness. How is it that how can organizations and people can have various ways of managing their mental state so that their productivity levels go up, and how is it that people can focus on the overall holistic wellness. So these are some of the points that we are trying to cover in today's session. And with that, I would say that also the experts that we have for today's session, we have people across different geographies. We have people from India, from Malaysia, and who are going to be looking at different angles to this whole thing and help all of us have some strong takeaways, because I'm sure there are so many other webinars or platforms which are discussing, but more we discuss, more perspectives come in and more we learn out of it. So that's the overall purpose of today's session. So with that, I'd like to introduce our speakers for today. And we have Saswati from Bangalore, and she's an industrial psychologist. So hi, Saswati. There she is. And and
Hi, I'm sorry, I'm having some issues with network, so I'll be putting off my video. Yeah, but hi
as
everyone.
long as long as we can hear you loud and clear and the kind of work that you're doing, we are very eager to listen to you. So
Thank you so much.
yeah, yeah. So we have Melanie. Melanie is a director, Shining Bloom Healing, and she's based out of KL, Malaysia. And she's been doing some good work out there, being counseling psychologist. And there she is, Melanie. So we can.
Hello. Hi.
Hi,
Nice to meet
Melanie.
you all, everyone.
Hi. So, and then we have Hua, again from KL, psychologist and doing some great work out there. And she's got various perspectives about this whole thing. And we really look forward to listening to all, what are the various, perspectives, various angles, so that we learn more and we are able to take some learnings from here. So, so with this, so what we're going to be doing is we are going to be having just as an outset for an hour, we will have the discussion. And then towards the end, we will open it up for the Q&A session with the participants. So that's the way that we would like to go ahead with. So with this, here is a question, because we're really eager to listen to each one of you. And with this, I have a question to Melanie. You're a counseling psychologist, and you've been working with people with different challenges, or people with different strata, different geographies also. What do you think, what are your thoughts on how can individuals identify and deal with the so-called stress, or maybe the chronic stress? So would really like to listen to you, Melanie. Over to you.
Thank you, Jayanthi. All right. So that's a powerful question to answer, even though it may sound deceptively simple. Because right now, at this point of time, globally, we are living in a time of chronic stress and trauma due to the pandemic. Okay, I recall when my country, Malaysia, first went into lockdown, there was a huge sense of confusion that was floating in the air, because number one, whatever that we have planned has been put into a halt, and there was this huge sense of uncertainty. Okay, and even now as well, I guess nearly a year after our country went to our first lockdown, and I was saying globally as well, people are still finding it difficult to juggle so many roles in their lives. Okay, although a lot of people would say that it is indeed a blessing, to be able to work from home, but at the same time, the boundaries have been blurred at home. So when it comes to chronic stress, ideally, if you actually Google and type in chronic stress, you more or less get a team of a few, I would say, indicators or symptoms. Okay, number one, physically. If your body is telling you you are under constant stress, it will show up signs, okay, such as number one, body aches, or in more, I would say, professional psychological jargons, psychosomatic symptoms. Okay, although I will not deny that these symptoms are also medical related. So always check with a doctor if you feel something is off within you, especially physically. But the common things that you get, like headaches, constant headaches, inability to sleep properly, difficulties focusing, forgetting. Okay, these are the things, or I would say the red flags that our body is showing us, so that we are more aware that we are more vulnerable, at this point of time, for lack of better words. Emotionally, I mean, the classic examples for emotional symptoms of chronic stress, quote unquote, is feeling angrier than usual. Okay, getting triggered easily, getting annoyed or agitated very easily. Okay, the other one would be the loss of sense of interest in doing the things that you wish to do. Okay. And cognitively or mentally, it's also the pattern of thoughts, the constant worrying, the influx of negative thoughts, okay? And finally, in terms of behavior, we look at lifestyle changes, okay? I've covered sleep, but also I would like to cover appetite, changes in eating patterns, increased level of isolation from other people. Okay, so as human beings, we are social creatures. So the moment we choose to isolate, usually there's two things. Either we need some time for ourselves, or there's something else that's going on. So that's how I define and see chronic stress from the work that I do. How to deal with it? I would say first and foremost, if you can spare some time, even 5 minutes, right at this moment, or even per hour, just getting up, make yourself a drink, or practice breathing exercise, practice presence, that helps in a way, because realistically speaking, we all are busy people, isn't it? Okay. And if I were to ask you to go and sit down in one corner and meditate for 3 hours, you're going to give me a weird look because we don't have time. All right. So having these little breaks of time will actually accumulate, okay, and will help to buffer against the stress. Okay. Once there is a little bit more breather, I will actually invite you to look at your schedule, look at your to-do list, and really ask yourself which of the endless things that you tell yourself you need to do are really something that you need to prioritize at this moment of time. Okay, because more often than not, they are obligations instead of real tasks. Okay, for example, if we are, if you're parents, okay, and we're working from home, okay, maybe at this point of time we are watching this webinar, but at the same time we are just wondering, okay, whether the dinner is ready to be cooked, or the lunch is ready to be cooked, the laundry is ready to be dried at the dryer. So there's so many background noises. Okay, so it would be good to just sit down with yourself and highlight what are the things you can prioritize right now. What are the activities in which I would say is a complete must in your day-to-day life, and then you filter it from there. So basically, that is the two simple ways to start off first, at least something that you can start off even after this webinar. So back to you, Jayanthi.
So thanks, Melanie. In fact, I am now reminded of somebody who's to actually have this, reminder on his on her watch, where every hour there'll be a beep, because what she needs to do is she will actually get up. In case if she's busy in a meeting, she may not do, but she'll then just sort of stop it. But then if she's free, she'll get up, walk around, and then come back, or she'll do something else. So I think it's a very valid point as to how, if you make a conscious effort of managing your stress, it doesn't become a chronic stress. I mean, that's what I understand. So it has to be a deliberate effort, instead of saying that, you know what, I don't know how I've got this stress. So it's about a deliberate and conscious effort of doing two things, whether it's about taking a break or doing your to-do list or priorities and all of that. So I think thanks Melanie for sharing that. With that, I like to go to Saswati. So being an industrial psychologist, Saswati, you may have experienced various aspects with teams, with organizations, with people. And what do you think would be, how to identify and address the stressful issues at the workplace? And basically, what would be the causes? Maybe, there are two questions built into one.
Yeah.
What could be the causes of the stressful aspects amongst employees? And
Right.
how to identify and address that?
Great. Thank you so much, Jayanthi, for that question. And good afternoon to everyone. So a lot of a part of your question actually comes from what Melanie just spoke with us, right? So some of the common symptoms of work-related stress or stress which happens at work is similar to the ones which is of stress, like physical symptoms of fatigue, muscular tension on your neck, shoulders, headaches, heart palpitation, things like that. Then you have psychological symptoms like you are irritable all the time, you feel pessimistic, you have a feeling of being overwhelmed, or you can't cope with something, you feel anxious or depressed and things like that. Then other ways to identify stress at workplace, especially from an employer's perspective, is behavioral symptoms such as increased attrition level, people taking a lot of leaves, absenteeism, aggression,
Right.
or like Melanie was talking in terms of the people cannot cope with the anger, their anger is bursting out in other places, problems
Right.
with interpersonal relationships at workplace. These are some of the things that to answer the first part of your question, how do you identify them? But when we talk particularly about what causes them, right, that was the second part of your question. What causes stress? So some of the main reasons why work-related stress happens is because of either the culture of the organization or the kind of management practices they have, or the job content, or what the job demand is, the physical work environment. Now that has kind of changed for us, isn't it? We used to work in office that had a different stress related to it, attached to it, like example for traveling, or if you have some hobbies that you're unable to do because you have to travel, versus right now where you're probably at home and you have to manage your home environment, your home life and your work life together, finding that balance. Okay, my dining table is my makeshift office, things like that. Your relationships at work can be work-related stress, lack of support at your workplace, role conflict, not having a clear understanding of what your role needs of you, what are your deliverables, or what are your expectations from the role. That can create a lot of stress, along with other traumas or incidences. Like, for example, today in this world of COVID, we are facing a form of stress related to work, right? Now, some of the indicators of work-related stress are basically some things which you have already talked about, like long hours, heavy workload, changes within the organization, suddenly shifting to a work from home kind of environment, tight deadlines, uh, things like job insecurity, because there is rapid change in technology, a lot of insecurity also lies. amongst people. Economic insecurities. Is my salary okay for the kind of lifestyle I have? Should I learn more skills? If I need to learn more skills, where do I find the money from? Will I be able to cope up with it? Or will my job get redundant in a couple of years? Do I have job security in the first place? Other forms could be like diversity and inclusion issues, things like harassment, for example, lack of equipment, lack of proper resources. So if you guys remember last year, and I'm very sad we are again in the same place this year, the moment we shifted to a work from home kind of model for the entire economy, a lot of people initially face a lot of lack of resources issues, right? So these are some of the indicators of what stress is at work, or work-related stress. Now, if I think I do have some more time, right? So probably some stats related to this. Like if I could give you some statistics around this. So for example, so I think very similar to 1 out of 5 people, 7 out of 10 people report that they face work-related stress, as in, the stress that they feel in their life comes from their workplace. A lot of people report that. Surprisingly, even there was a comparative study where employees below the salary of 5 lakhs were reported to be more vulnerable towards personal finances and hence faced a lot of stress at work, versus 35% of employees who had an annual salary of above 21 to 30 lakh, that kind of bracket per annum, they reported burnout and poorest mental well-being scores. So it is not really, again, so the understanding of how and why stress happens in the first place, that is important to understand, and understanding exactly what could be some of the sources. Is it your finances? Is it your culture? Is it your leadership practices? Is it the way your job is being crafted? Are you not able to prioritize well in your work? Or maybe you're not having support from work. What exactly is it that is causing the workplace stress? And one of the key important things to remember here is the employer should take up that kind of accountability as well. So as an employer, I am accountable for the mental health well-being of my employees, at least for those many hours that they spend with me, irrespective of the kind of physical environment or not that they're working in. They are constantly engaging with the organization for whatever, 8 to 10 hours, sometimes 11 to 12 hours as well. So being accountable for that. And the only way one can be accountable for it if you take measures in terms of how do you help in better mental health. So yeah, so that's about a short way of describing causes and reasons for work-related stress. Back to you, Jayanthi. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Saswati. I think this has been very succinctly placed as to how you have put forward that aspect of when we're talking about coping strategies. It's not only about the employees or the people, but it's about the organizations and the workplace. How do they also, along with people, they look at how can we ensure that the workplace is much it's better equipped and the strategies are placed rightly. Like I like that example of how you're talking about the financial salary levels, and if you're able to slice and dice like this through certain touch points or through a survey or whatever, and say that okay, fine, people below 5 lakhs are more vulnerable. I mean, some of, as one of the study has been shared, and people above a particular salary bracket, they have different other sets of stress inducers. So if as an organization also, if they are able to take the responsibility and accountability to identify and identify and sort of bucket that across as to what are the various stress sources, and then accordingly provide, whether it is programs or whether some interventions or whatever. But I think that very first, the beginning is from the fact that the responsibility being taken from the organization to put certain systems in place. And of course, apart from that, as how Melanie shared about individual, on the individual basis, how that can be addressed. So I think that's a very a very good thought and nice perspective that you have shared. Thanks, Shashwati, for that. With with that, I will like to, go to Hua about, you've actually seen that in this world, especially now that we have become digital and all of that, um, people are actually being so much, there's so much of personal branding programs which have been put across, and there's that kind of a reinforcement and bombardment which keeps going, especially now that we become digital, virtual, and people have more access to more programs. There's been a lot of learning happening. So when we're talking about personal branding, then let's talk about visibility. So when it's more of visibility, then people they don't want to miss themselves out from anything which is happening, whether it's work related stuff. Of course, it's been there earlier also, but now with all the digital explosion, people have more accessibility to be seen in different platforms and things like that. So this whole aspect of people's perception, perception or perspective of not missing out on anything, or whether you call it as fear of missing out, FOMO part of it. So so with that, I like you to sort of who are help us all understand. You may be actually talking and dealing with people, and may have observed certain patterns. What is this whole FOMO about, and how is it that people are getting sort of affected, and what's the kind of balance?
Thank you for this opportunity to share with all of you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, very much. Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay. So the FOMO, or fear of missing out, is this phenomenon from the when we have a social media and Facebook. Many ways, social media is a great way to communicate many positive effects on our life, on our work. But however, nowadays there are many negative effects on workplace and on individual employer. So the fear of missing out is the feeling that you have in the workplace, where you feel like your colleagues having a better experience than you, having more exciting experience than you, which is you are not, or they're more competent than you. They can do things better than you. So general, it's you defeating yourself in the way of self-esteem or confident at work. And you also, one of the symptoms, you would see that that you keep checking constantly, using your phone almost like a stalker, stalk your phone every hour or every 2 hours, and you even to the kind of anxious or aroused, and you stick consistent with the posts seen by Facebook or Twitter or social media in general. So it's impossible for you to keep your eye of your phone. And this will affect your work, and very often you would see a similar symptom like you have when you are low motivation. You're also feeling stressed, and you have a difficulty to focus on your responsibility at work. Difficult to sort of like accomplish or achieve what you supposed to do in the workplace, or whatever written in the TOR, in the term of reference of your job. It's a very difficult for you to to be done. So this kind of anxious is triggered by this FOMO. And many ways that you cannot miss that. You cannot stay away from the phone. And how to balance that is many approach. But first you have to any issue coming up, you need to able to aware first, because there are a lot of time that the employer or the college may be aware of you having problem. I mean, you married to the phone. but you might not aware of it. Like you constantly post like a you thought that post 10, 5-10 posts a day on Facebook and tweet about 20 times. It's not no problem, but for other people, it might be, some concern. And it also how you post it. And nowadays with this COVID also, some of us, we are constantly watching the news and seeing how much number is, case affected and what's going to happen. So this lead to another sign is when you feel or you stay in uncertainty, also constant. So it is like eating you out, and you feel stuck. At the end, you feel very stressed and you feel stuck. So this is a level to measure, also observe. First, you need to be aware, because I talk to many of my clients, but my client sometimes they say, oh, my colleague says that I post too much. But how many posts you post? I post about 20 a day only. So yeah, but for some of these people, they you don't aware of it, then it's difficult for you to keep yourself balanced, and you don't know where this stress come from. Is that because come from my work or come from which I constantly checking my message, constantly checking about COVID, issue like that. So that would lead to fear of missing out. And you always feel one of the things, when I talk to my client on this, I always say, when you, because one of the things of this is fear of missing out is you compare with your college. You think that your college, that table there, my colleagues on that area, on that department, they may do better than us, do better than me, and the grass is always greener than at the at the office of the college. So compare. One of the things is you have thought constantly racing in your head. Compare with your college, and you assume that you're not better than them on you, and you defeating yourself. You bring yourself down. And many ways, I see my client is having negative thought about themselves, like, oh, I'm not good enough, I'm going to fail, my boss going to fire me, I will have trouble in the meeting of my department, thing like that. So that's kind of negative thought. It happened. Then some of the symptoms, it lead to the serious stress, and also when you feel uncertainty with this, particular when we in this COVID time, of course similar symptom like you have with stress or anxiety, but with uncertainty, sometimes you have a sense of this shock and disbelief, difficult. You almost not able to keep yourself calm. You feel restless, and most of the time that we see that, like during COVID, people keep saying, I lose my appetite. I have very low motivation. I don't know what I'm going to do next, and I can't sleep. So that's this kind of thing. Now, if you can't sleep or you have a few issues, only 1 or 2 times, it is not problem, because sometimes don't forget the stress or our psychosomatic symptom. It can appear when we anxious, and a little bit of stress, a little bit of anxious, that will be good for us, because it helps us to cope. Like if we anxious about getting COVID, that's why we keep social distancing, that's why we're wearing masks when we're going out, and that is totally healthy. But if you at the level when you feel you are constantly, you lose your sleep and you don't want to eat for days and weeks and months, then that will become a problem. So when you have this problem, is for individual, it's very important to to get as much as information about the problem, because every one of us will be express different symptom, and also the way we cope also. So notice about the problem, aware of the problem, and how severe it is. It's very important. Okay, we all checking our phone. We're all checking about COVID, about the news. But if you constantly check every hour, then that is serious. But you check like once or twice a day or 3 times a day for a few minutes, that it would be totally healthy. Checking of social media or checking about the news. Then when you have this pain, or you have this severe symptom, like you lose sleep, you cannot eat and you cannot focus, then you have to start to identify what was that with me, what happened that make me to have this problem, that make me cannot sleep, and what is the evidence that make me always saying to myself that I'm not good enough, and what the what the evidence that make me, and what the reason make me to compare with my colleagues so much. So this kind of thing you need to look for, and then you should thinking of reframing and refocus, finding the way that would be suitable for you to do one little step each day. When I talk to my client, I say, don't expect you change right away. Now you suddenly set. A lot of my clients say, oh, should I lock my phone in the cabinet? I couldn't use my phone, or I just, I delete my Facebook account. I say, you don't have to do that. You can just slowly, take a small step each day. And maybe you would plan or schedule when and how you're going to check the phone, and when and how you're going to check about the COVID, and it's a problem to us. And for organization, it's a very important, as Melanie and Saswati saying about support, building the support network, building the support group, and making sure peer able, college to able to support college, and also making sure that the leader have an opportunity, the worker have an opportunity to speak out of their concern if they have problem. And also we need to promote that people would be able to accept, express their issues, and able to speak out or share with others who trust, and frank, open up more disclosure in the office, in the workplace about mental health problem, but in the safe way. Many office nowadays, I have a mental health promotion day, for example, or one of the office here, I asked them to have a kindness day, gratitude. One day that all the office mates would exchange with each other about how gratitude they have for this job, for this college that they have, and also exchange kindness. You can do one kind thing to the colleagues, and the colleagues could be, offer another kind word to somebody else in the office, and encourage each other. So this kind of thing, small action, but it's meaning a lot to support the college in the office, to able to improve, and kind that means you also kind to yourself and kind to the college.
Thank you, Hoa. I can so very relate to this because, at the time when all this lockdown was announced last year, and subsequent to that, when everybody, was experiencing all those webinars and all those Zoom meetings and all that which was happening, and with, with that, those restrictions for not stepping out. So one of the main ways of, sort of expressing was social media. And then it went on so much. I still remember some of the friends, it was becoming a havoc. They came running and they said, I really don't know how so-and-so person, maybe it's a colleague or somebody they know, is able to post so many things. She's doing so many great works. I'm feeling very low about it. I mean, I know of multiple people who had come across saying that that whenever I open up my social media, I'm actually feeling down. I really feel really low about myself. So I can really relate with this. And of course, then there was a conscious effort of, the tips that you have shared. They're very helpful, I think. Like we are talking about how do you regulate your access to social media. We're not saying you go to extremes of stopping or binge viewing and all that, but we're saying look at what is it which is comfortable for you, so that you're able to be in touch with information, and at the same time it's not something which is eating upon you. So I think that's how many of the people whom I know, after having gone to the other extreme, they've actually did this conscious effort of saying that, okay, if I'm going to watch, if I'm going to check my FB or Facebook or whatever, I will do it only so many times in a day, or maybe once a day, or maybe morning or evening, something like that, and allot some time for that. And similarly with their Twitter or with any of those other social media platforms, and especially LinkedIn is something again that people are really going all out. And it also, I'm seeing there are people who regulate it so well, and creating that balance. And there are people whom we say every day, morning and evening, there's a lot of post happening. So I think that's a very pertinent one, especially when you're talking about the support group. How do you build your support group, and the exercise of kindness or gratitude, whether you talk about doing any one act of kindness. So all these examples are certainly show a window of lot many other things which can be consciously and deliberately built or included in this as part of the system, whether it's an organization or whether it is an individual. So thanks for this insight, Hua. Very much required in the current times. And so with that, I'd like to actually go back again to Melanie, where we've been talking about stress induced situations and causes and all of that. But there are times just people just feel overwhelmed. They just feel overwhelmed. They don't know why they feel overwhelmed, but they feel it's just overwhelming, right? They're managing it, but they're feeling overwhelmed. So when do you sense that, okay, and how to manage it, in the sense, when you're just getting into the tip of this overwhelmness at work, at personal, whatever, and how do you manage, and what is your observation with respect to whether it's whether it's India or whether it's rest of the world? What are your thoughts on that?
Thank you, Jayanthi. Um, well, I would start by sharing personal experience about being overwhelmed. Okay. So one of my previous employment was with a community healthcare clinic, okay, in which we actually provide an anonymous HIV testing for the general public, and that includes the marginalized communities as well. So that setting is considered high risk and high stress because we are dealing with a high volume of clients, and 99% of the time they come in with so much of anxiety or so much of just being so stressed and nervous because they're going to find out something about their health that will affect their life. And there was just a time where at the time I was just handling so many things, the high flow of clients, and personally I was also supporting a friend who was going through a difficult time in life. And there was one point where my mind just said, I can't take this anymore. And I froze. Okay. I sat at my desk and I froze for a good 2 minutes. So it's like, a computer, being jammed up, you see. And that's where I realized, oh my goodness, that's overwhelm. Okay. So from that experience, and adding from what Hoa and Saswati have shared a few minutes ago, okay, this is now a time where stress and uncertainty, has created a perfect environment for people to more or less feel more overwhelmed than usual. Okay, and therefore the first step is to notice when you are overwhelmed. Therefore, the awareness. Okay, do you know what your body is telling you when you are overwhelmed? Okay, and this covers the infamous fight, flight, freeze, or fawn system, our nervous system. Okay, a lot of people talk about the fight or the flight system in ourselves, where when we're in the face of threats, we either run or we fight. Okay, but more often than not, in my work that I see, and even in the culture that I live in, we freeze a lot because we have been conditioned that we may not be able to respond, or I would like to rephrase that the conditioning of the society is that if we respond in a way that is unacceptable, we receive a lot of potential punishment. Okay, and therefore, most of the time, the clients that come into my doorstep, they are just numb. They do not know what they feel from neck down. Okay, so first and foremost, know what your body says when you are overwhelmed. Okay, that requires some form of discovery, some form of questioning. Okay, secondly is that when you know that, okay, I'm overwhelmed, all right, access your coping strategies that you have more or less been practicing or have built over the past few years when you cope with scary situations or stressful situations, and see whether that helps. That includes distraction, just getting up, making a drink, or playing a music video, okay, or a video at YouTube that makes you laugh. Okay, breathing if possible, especially if you know how to regulate your breathing. It's the easiest, the cheapest tool ever created. It's free. As long as you're a human being, you're alive, you're breathing, it's free. Okay, or and finally, if all else comes, it comes up short, okay, reach out for support. Okay, all right, talk to someone. Okay, and there's so many people that you can talk to. All right, the professionals are more than ready and able to assist now with the I guess the availability of teletherapy, where we're doing sessions via online, through text, through email. Okay, hotlines depending on where you're based at. If the government has sanctioned a few resources for hotlines or emergency contacts, and support groups like Hoa mentioned, support groups are so powerful at this time and age, because right now people are more isolated than ever, even though virtually we are connected all the time. That's the biggest irony actually for the century or the decade, I would say. So keep things simple. You don't need to create a 10-step program for this. If you can keep 3 steps or even 1 step, that will actually ease that process of coming back into what I call as a calm point, for lack of better words, right? One of the other ways that I use for myself, okay, is that I center myself to in a part of my body whenever I start to notice the signs of being overwhelmed. So usually that's my heart, okay? And because I center myself at the heart, I also focus on my breathing. So there's 2 birds in 1 stone right there. Yeah. So I hope that these simple tips can help, especially if you want to implement them after this webinar. Back to you, Jayanthi.
Thank you. Thanks, Melanie. I think that was very important, very helpful tip, where we are saying that even if you're just getting the sense of being overwhelmed, what are the things that you need to do instead of just overlooking it and then just let it build on and things like that. And the very first beginning, if you're able to take care of it the way that you said, I think a lot of it can be, sort of avoided. A lot of things can be avoided. So thanks for that, Melanie. And with that, I like to go to Shashwati. And from your experience, Shashwati, with organizations and with people, as as teams have those great pressure to keep on performing and ensuring that whatever be the situation and environment, your productivity levels have to be maintained or become better. So how is it that can you actually share how does the holistic wellness come in
Mhm.
play with productivity, employee productivity?
Okay, sure. Thank you so much. Thank you for the question, Jayanthi, and thank you before Hoa and Melanie for giving us very good context and understanding of how to deal with it. So, keeping all of this in mind, uh, because at the end of the day, we are dealing with individuals, right? Human beings at the workplace. So, keeping all of this in mind, one of the first things, at least from a organizational psychology point of view, we call it in terminology is organizational development intervention, OD interventions, or even sometimes can be classified under OB interventions. So, what do you mean by these? So, something similar to what both of them just shared before. At an individual level, let's say if I find that my work is giving me the most stress, right? I, as an individual, can start doing something which is, I think, this is one of the best trainings out there in terms of a behavioral training, is how to prioritization. If we know how to prioritize our work, and the moment we see that we have more than three competing priorities in our task, it should be an indicator that we have too much work on our plate, right? And from an organization's point of view, if you actually see that the teams that you mentioned, high performing teams, teams that always have too much on their plate, for example, a sales team, an account management team, too many things on their plate. The moment from a job crafting perspective, like the way the job is designed, if they are having more than 3 to 4 competing priorities at a given time, then it is a problem. Then it is a given that there will be stress in the organization, and it will be sooner or later that it will hit the productivity. It will hit the efficiency. So often we see this in terms of number of errors made. Higher your stress levels, the higher the number of errors that are being made in any given work per se. The other form, so this is one side, right? Like in terms of your actual task or actual work that you can do. And there are multiple, many different ways. I'm just trying to choose things, which I can explain in this time period. The other thing, again, both of them mentioned this, and very, very important, like rightly mentioned, to have a support system is empathy and communication. An organization spending actual training hours with actual accountability on empathy and communication. I have seen this in the past decade of my career. Whenever I have conducted or I have been part of programs that did empathy and communication training, emotional intelligence training, especially communication, because that is the kind of seed for empathy. If you can communicate well, if you are able to communicate with your managers or your peers or your clients or your family members, whoever it is that you're communicating with, in a way effectively making them understand how you feel, even if it is that you are not able to do something today, or I can do it tomorrow, or gain more knowledge or experience, that helps a lot. And at the same time, like I think Hoa was mentioning, kindness. So we kind of inculcate a lot of kindness the moment we start consciously training on these things. Now, this is the other aspect from a holistic perspective, because it is holistic, there's many aspects. Another very, very important aspect is the culture of an organization. That is, what are my leadership practices within the organization? So I tend to recommend quite a lot to my clients to have effective leadership programs that will help enable a culture within the organization to make it a safe place to work, to make it for people to feel psychologically safe. Psychological safety is a real thing, and to actually feel safe within an organization. How are you able to communicate your fears? Are you able to communicate your shortcomings? If you are communicating, what is the response that you're getting, right? Because that response is also very important. So doing things on these things. So these are some of the few things that you can do. Apart from this, from a systematic point of view, right, from a systems change or an operational change point of view, as an organization, definitely tie up with employee assistance programs, programs which are designed for your organization, which tie up with clinical psychologists, counseling psychologists, sometimes even psychiatrists, who you can talk to professionally. And at the same, because we have to remember, all of this is going back to the HR, and anyways, the HR is a lot of overburdened with a lot of work, right? So we need to enable the HR. So how do you enable the HR? By the HR expanding to its shared services, like an employee assistance program, right? You've tied up with an organization which has licensed psychologists in their board, who you can anonymously call, text, email. There are multiple formats that are available today. The other thing, which is probably the first step, I mean, of doing all of this, if you're looking at a holistic well-being for your organization, an organizational well-being, so that your organization is performing best. And here, I think COVID situation has proved to us all that not the chairs and the tables and things like that. So if you look at it from that perspective, the first thing is focusing on prevention, right? If my approach itself is prevention, then it helps. Now, what do I mean by prevention? I mean by having policies, having programs in the organization, having systems in the organization, having shared HR services or allied HR services, or if you want to call it something different in your organization, however it works out. Let's say things like mental health benefits, right? Mental health leaves, having an office counselor, for example, building on stress management and resilience. So all of these techniques, some are coping techniques which you can do individually, because we have to remember that what is a stress for someone is just a challenge for someone, and that does not invalidate it, right? So, and that stress can just switch its place with anybody at any given point of time. Some other things which an organization can do is give expanded employee assistance. What do you mean by expanded employee assistance? If you remember, when we were talking about in the first section, things like financial health. So having, let's say, somebody who can be like a financial counselor, so giving them access to information on how to do financial management better. COVID insurance in today's case, that is an expanded employee assistance. Giving physical health benefits or enablers, things like a lot of organizations are sending standing desks to their employees, because it helps you stand up and work instead of sitting, because the entire day you're sitting, in case, you can actually opt for that. Or have Fitbits. So basically integrating and ensuring and letting the employee know as an employer that I do care, and that's a genuine care, because you are spending in terms of your policies, programs, and practices, that you do have a lot of value if they've eaten on time, if they've slept on time, if they've had enough exercise, if they are feeling mentally well, if they're able to communicate within the organization, if they feel that there is a sense of team support within the organization. These help quite a lot, right? So holistic wellness, the meaning of holistic is you have physical, you have mental, you have emotional, and you have spiritual. Now, we have, as individuals, we have to take accountability and for all of them, right? I own all of these, and they are all under my power, and I can choose to work on each of them. But at a workplace, from an employer's perspective, the employer can give many support for each of these, especially for mental health and emotional well-being. Because what happens is, the moment I, as an employer, start creating programs around these, start creating policies around these, automatically the other issues that I face as an employer, which is attrition rate, which is absenteeism, which is low engagement, which is lack of efficiency or lack of productivity, high errors, these automatically go down. I find as an employer that my people within the team, as an entire organization, gel well together. They have excellent interpersonal relationship within the organization. That is also mostly because people have a sense of coping mechanism in them. They have understood how to communicate kindly with empathy. They also know how to deal with situations which can be tough or challenging, right? So as an organization, I think these are a couple of things that you can do. I mean, there are multiple things that you can do. It's very specific to the kind of issues or challenges that you're facing. But purely if your priority, again, the same word, priority, is mental health and well-being for your employees, I think having a good employee assistance program, spending some time and effort in stress management resilience programs, making prioritization as the breadth of an organization. People know how to prioritize tasks like instantly, which really helps, because you will also find that way a lot of employees will find a lot of time for themselves because they've started effectively prioritizing tasks. They're on top of their game. Or even having expanded services, right? Giving them a COVID insurance, giving them something called a mental health leave, normalizing mental health leave for that matter, right? So if I call up my manager and if I can tell my manager that, you know what, I've been very depressed since the last weekend and I would like to take my day off, I think if it'll be great if the manager says, yes, you can, instead of saying, okay, you know what, buck it up, come to work. So having this kind of understanding, these really, really help. But again, talking from a perspective of something which is more specific, I would really highly recommend that you form a committee within the organization in alliance with your HR, talk to subject matter experts, talk to organizational psychologists, clinical psychologists, counseling psychologists, or to EAP providers, and how you can actually build a system around this so that in the long term, because what we are facing today will not change very easily, to be very honest. I'm sorry, it sounds a little pessimistic, but we'll get better day by day. And if we start equipping ourselves today with this, it'll be a lot more easier as we move forward. So yeah, I hope that answered your question, Jayanthi.
Thank you, Saswati. And I think this is a question which is so vast. I mean, this is an area which is so vast, and I think you've done a fair justice by
Thank you so much.
articulating all of that in this in a packed way. And from what I can see is that if people who are there in the organization at the workplace, if they have to sort of up their coping strategies with respect to the overall mental wellness, when we are saying mental, it could be emotional wellness, it's overall. So the whole aspect of how the organization is building various interventions, they all have to be keeping that in mind as to how is it that people can feel better at workplace. So how is it? So typically you have that great places to work, tags which are there, and everybody seems to be looking at having that tag to actually be an employer of choice. And an
That's
employer
true.
of choice is something where you're attracting people by virtue of the fact that people are comfortable being around in your work, in your office or in your organization. So I think it's
Yes.
about, if you're able to attract people by being employer of choice, and to get their employer of choice overall tag, you have all those structures in place, which is where you talked about organizational OD intervention, a part of it where you're talking about focus on the kind of policies, systems that you have in one angle. The other angle, we're talking about the leadership practices, or whether it is about the communication. So the whole gamut of it comes under the framework of, you're saying, how do you put down structures in place in such a way that you give a better feeling or better experience. So the moment you start giving better experience to your employees, you're able to help them cope with their overall wellness. And I think that's
Yes,
where,
absolutely.
so I think
Yes, I
that's,
just like to add one more thing there, Jayanthi. So, because since you were talking, so as an organizational psychologist, at least when we work with organization, one of the imperatives in terms of priorities, of course, for them is business, right? Everything that the organization does is towards the business. So, uh, and a lot of organizations probably struggle with this, and I'd like to take this opportunity to make this more, give this more awareness. You can actually have business propositions attached to these programs, because if running successfully these kind of programs or having these kind of policies and practices can enhance your productivity and efficiency, therefore enhancing your business proposition, then these are successful programs. And in order to do so, then you have to approach it in a very scientific manner. You have to approach it in the right way. Because I have also faced a lot of organizations who may have tried some of these, but did not find a lot of business outcome out of it, right? And if I deep dive in them, I would often quite see that this was not done thinking through. And that is why, I stressed upon this, and I'd like to stress upon it again. Please do have subject matter experts on board who can help you make something which is more scientific in nature, which works with real human beings, right? Though it is numbers at the end of the day, they're real human beings and everybody is unique. So the kind of programs and policies that also you're creating should be something that they would want and that can enhance and enable them. So enablers, creating enablers within the organization is very, very important. So
Right.
yes, thanks, Jayanthi.
Yeah, thanks, Saswati. And I think what you're talking about is the HR metrics part of it, and which is what organizations are doing. They have all their metrics, which are business connected metrics, whether you call it employee attrition, whether you talk about employee satisfaction, index, or there's so many other, the plethora of index which are there, or the metrics which are there, which is what links all these structure with that of the business outcome. And you very rightly said that if you have the right linkages, and that's how the agenda will get pushed very well, and it'll be, one can sustain that for a long term and not just being one off kind of a thing. I think that was very nicely, that point was very important. So thanks for bringing that up, Saswati. And with that, I will actually like to go to Hua again, and where we are talking about, there's so much of, everybody is trying to be the fortune teller, or maybe looking at what's going to happen in the next 6 months, 1 year, 2 years. Very many people are so confident in their predictions that this is how it's going to work. And probably last year also the same thing was predicted, and things have happened maybe in the same way or maybe differently. But in this process, people who've been trying to check out all that, there's fair amount of uncertainty with the current environment. So with all of this, how do you think that people can deal with this kind of an uncertainty, because this is continuous, and and sorry to say, we do not know how long this kind of an uncertainty will continue. So how do we all deal with this kind of a thing?
It is very critical at this moment for everybody, even young or old, office or out of office, or working at home, or housewife. The stress level of feeling unpredictable thing surround us. We don't know what going to happen tomorrow. You don't know that if you can pay the bill tomorrow or next month, or you don't know your children when safe in the school, or there may be no school for another years or few months. So all this is a very, very highly stress for all of us, and affect our body, and make us worry. Some people actually worry constantly. So I used to deal with a lot of people with worry about, even CEO. You think that, high big boss, you wouldn't have a worry, but they actually also have a lot of worry about, deadline, worry about, their worker achieves what they need to achieve, and the organization in getting strong, and also the income, the revenues is going in, and nobody losing job. And one of the things of worry at the moment, also a lot of people worry not about themselves, but worry about their whole, company, the whole system, and also, worry about their family, what will be next for them. So dealing with worry is not easy, and it's similar like the negative thought, the worry thought, the worry feeling, intense of feeling So when you deal with negative feeling is and worry, you're dealing with intense emotion. So the key with you is learn how to regulate it. So the first step is very important. That looking around to see what you can do to fit in the situation. For example, if you cannot going out because there are so many COVID cases out there, what you can do it's a safer for you. And in the worry, you often lose your sleep. You often anxious about the future, and you unpredict. Difficult to predict what will happen even tomorrow. So dealing with unpredictable situation is good for you to do something which you can predict. For example, you would plan on focus on something like what can I do is, for example, I cleaning my office, for example. So that's things that you can do, right? And you can predict that can in your control. So notice the difficult moment, difficult feeling, and then name it and try to reframe it. For example, like reframe, it's not only me dealing with this unpredictable COVID situation, but all my colleagues also in the same situation. So I'm not alone. And many ways that when I teach my client, I used to teach them to write down their worry and put in the box. It's called worry box. So I always encourage my office everywhere that you should have this box. So whenever you have a worry, write down on the piece of paper, put it down, and then read about that. Okay, so this is my current state of worry, and then fold it and put in the box, and note to yourself. Now, very important, say to yourself, I will deal with this worry when I have time. Maybe weekend, maybe next Monday, for example. So you set your schedule to deal with worry, then your mind is not racing too much with problem and worry and concern. So when you have you feel tired, you couldn't sleep because the mind cannot turn off, racing with thought, racing with worry, racing with uncertainty. Yeah. So you need to take something out and put somewhere, plan it. And another one is always have with you the stress reduction. The box, make another box. So you make another box, for example, in here, you would have a tool, okay? One tool, you could put on a piece of paper, like, okay, so this is affirmation, this sentence help me to feel stronger, to feel empowerment. So read it, or stress ball, squeeze a stress ball, or something, the scent that you like, you can smell when you stress, and inhale, exhale, and smell, or something would be like the lotion or something you should like, and then you have it, rub it, and smell. Yeah, feel the nice cream, feel nice of the essential oil, for example, or taste something like a little candy, taste. So all remember to balance yourself when you are not calm, or you are in panic, or you are worried, is 5 sense. See, you see something like reading, something is positive. even reading a positive sentence or watch a video like Melanie say, go on YouTube or watch a funny humor video, or loving story, then that make you feel better. Or here, listen to the music. So put the music on, listen to beautiful song that you love. That also can calm you down and reduce your worry. And taste a bit of candy, or me, I love dry fruit. So taste a little bit of mango, dry mango, and I love it. I feel relaxed and I feel released. Or smell of something like incense, nice, and inhale, like Melanie say, inhale, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, exhale, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So inhale and count, and exhale is count. And touch. So squeeze something that you have that make him stressful, touch something, or cut a pillow. So things like that to help you to reduce, sort of uncertainty, worry, or intense. Particularly when you have an intense, sometimes I have my client actually come to see me and say, I constantly saying that I'm not good enough. I'm going to lose my job. Yeah, so this kind of things that is when you have intense worry and about the future, and you are talking negative about yourself. And this one, if it's racing in your head and it's too much in your head of the negative feeling, you will have overwhelmed feeling, like what Melanie giving you example. And attention, like Saswati saying about attention and priority, it's very important. Pick up a little bit of something. You don't need, for example, for a person, it's easy to pick up little thing like, okay, today I commit to myself, I will have a little walk at the beach, or I will do a breathing exercise. And that's simple. But for an organization to to put a new job as a counselor in the system of HR is quite a big deal. So just use whatever you have. It's a very good to have a counselor there to pay full salary, but many organizations incapable to do that. So what I suggest organization often is I say you build your capacity, build even college to support each other. When you're working in the team, in your department, you not only support each other professionally, the skill, the knowledge and understanding, but you also support each other in terms emotionally, spiritually. And it's very important to have this capacity to build in. You can make a program like a first day, just how many hour you would talk about mental health, team building, peer support, and also you should people at workplace. I see that very often, like Saswati saying about miscommunication and misunderstanding. That is where is the root of the stress and the problem come from. So you make sure you have this in place to help the worker to able to build trust to each other, and also worker can trust employee, can trust the employer. Yeah, and from there they can easy to communicate with each other. And every time if a cooperation or partnership have a problem, you need to find out where is a miscommunication, where is a misunderstanding, where it become a team conflict, and you identify that. And at HR, I'm sure you have capacity to do that, to able to predict the problem, and you have a chance to discuss with the employer and employee to to identify what is a method could be suitable for particular problem and particular office. And it cannot all fit one. Every situation of team conflict, every situation of mental health breakdown in the office is unique, and you need to able to reach it in the unique way, which is let the people who are affected to have a voice. So engage the employee in that, to able to, you know, they really engage in the mental well-being. If you want a mental health for this worker, you need to able to for them to speak out what would be good for them. You know, because we, for example, me, I sitting here, I can't say for people in Australia that what is good for you in Australia, but I can tell you currently in KL, in Malaysia, this is how we did, and this is how we could, you know, moderate our feeling uncertainty, the word COVID, you know, at workplace. So thank you, Jayanthi.
Thanks, Hua. I think, you know what, I'm going to actually uh, start doing that worry box and stress reduction toolbox. You know, that's a really great takeaway. And of course, the five senses part that you said, and especially I think it's about, again, making that conscious, deliberate effort of managing one's stress, and instead of looking at it that that's something which whatever you do, it'll anyway happen. So if you make deliberate effort to sort of manage it and to keep it away, there are various ways that you can actually do it. So thanks so much for that. And you know, there's something which people have been experiencing a lot, and maybe with this, you know, people can ask questions if they have, the attendees. Otherwise, there's one message which has come, which talks about, there's a lot of uncertainty about jobs. You know, in the sense, people are there in their jobs, but there seems to be, maybe, you know, this would be the last month, or maybe next month would be the last month, or maybe next 6 months or whatever. So that kind of uncertainty is there. So how do one is, probably there's not much of uncertainty as such from the organization, but people have that uncertainty. Maybe it could be true, maybe it may not be. But what is it that, so in that process, a lot of employees, they lose interest. They're always looking at, maybe look out for another job, or, you know, there's a lot of disinterest in the work, productivity levels go down, and all of that is happening. So my question, I would like to put it to any of you also, is that how can organizations, you know, take care of that uncertainty that people have with respect to losing of their jobs, uh, that, you know, anytime they may lose their jobs. Is there anything that can be done from the organization side to comfort the people? You know what, just be, one is of course communication, but what are the, do you think there's anything that consciously organizations can do? That could be one angle. Second angle is maybe employees themselves, people themselves. What should they uh, do? Probably these things that you're saying, worry box, the stress reduction toolbox, and all of that, they really help. But apart from that, is there anything else that you think, with the current you know, experiences that people are having, of especially with respect to their livelihoods, because that's something which is topmost. If anyone would like to take that up, I mean, anyone, Saswati, Hua, Melanie.
Sure. Yeah. Please, Hoa, go on, and I'll continue there.
Yeah, Hua. Yeah, Hua.
Okay. Well, I think it's a very real, because this is not only your organization have the same kind of this concern. I also face with some of the office here that they have a worry that their worker is you know, losing interest, and even very difficult to focus for the worker. Yeah. And also the worker have a low motivation on there. They're not motivated with your job, and they don't see as the long term. They also look around, because currently, I don't know the other country, but in Malaysia, the government will assist package for people if they finance assistance for people if they losing jobs. So a lot of office talk to me that they lose a worker and they have difficulties to keep them and motivate them to able to, you know, achieve what have been you know, discussed. So I think this is another example for us to see. It's the worker losing attention and focus. So definitely they face with uncertainty and high stress level, and maybe looking for some of the sign, maybe worry too much about something. You maybe not know because they might be having a burden with their family. It also can make them to lose interest in their work, and they, a lot of them, they don't have a good space to work at home. For example, they're being disrupted by their family member and livelihood. I heard some of the worker told me that they have to even not only doing the work, but also they have to like taking care of the family in the same time. So this is a absolutely increased responsible. The worker are overwhelmed with their
Right.
responsibility.
Right. Yeah. Thanks, Hoa. The interest of time, there's one last question that we will take up, and that's which is from Alok. And okay, there's another question also which has come. So, how everyone can adopt the model of relearning and improving the efficiency? That is one, and second is. In the current situation, our parents are staying in other country as we are in other country. How to deal with the stress? So these are the two questions which have come in. Can you see the question? Shall I repeat those questions? One is about how can we adopt a model for relearning and improving efficiency?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Thank you, Jayanthi. Thank you, Alok Kumar, for that question. In terms of how anybody can adopt a model of relearning and improve efficiency. So one of the key insights of relearning is, so what is relearning? Meaning you have to learn something again. In order to learn something again, or I presume this is learning something new as well, there are two aspects. One is unlearning, right? So whatever you know, so whenever we start to do something, we have to remind ourselves that either we have some basic knowledge of it or accept the fact that we don't know anything about it. So let us say it is something that you have basic knowledge of it, but it has changed quite a lot. Let's say it's the technology, which has evolved a lot, and you have to relearn it again or learn it in a new manner altogether, is the aspect of unlearning. That is one. The second is age-old practice. And this is a proven concept. If you give yourself 21 days, and each day, if you give yourself about an hour or so to practice something, you eventually form a habit. Habit means, so learning is a process where a couple of things happen. It's called Bloom's taxonomy. So you learn, so you read something and you understand something. After you understand something, you comprehend. Once you comprehend, you start synthesizing it by being able to actually apply that learning into something else, right? So it's a transition. So doing that for 21 days, and of course, for some things, it will take a lot more time, but give yourself about a month and give yourself a rating that, today, if I am a 0 on 10 on, let's say, a new technology, or a 2 on 10, by the end of the month, I would like to be a 5 out of 10 or a 7 out of 10. And for me to reach a 5 or a 7 out of 10, I will have to do these kind of tasks, or I have to complete these kind of things. So these are some of the ways to approach that. It's not probably as simple as this, but as an individual, I think number one is accepting fact that we don't know something and being open to learning something new, which can sometimes be competing with something we've learned previously. That's one. And second, rating yourself, like instead of somebody else rating your marks, or like a performance appraisal review, rate yourself. So today I have a 0 on 10 or a 1 on 10 on this skill, and by learning for the next 1 month or 2 months, give yourself a time frame and have a plan for that time frame. I will become a 5 on a 10 or a 7 or a 10 or a 10 on a 10, whatever, however you want to look at it. So I hope that answers to some extent your question, Alok. Thanks, Jayanthi.
Thank
Jayanthi, you're on mute.
That was well articulated, Saswati. Thanks for that. And in the interest of time, this is one last question that we can look at. And though we have been addressing so many aspects of it from all the three speakers, it's about people who have their parents in different country. How do they deal with that stress? If that can be sort of responded to by any of you in a very short manner.
I guess I can take this question.
Yeah, please.
I guess this is the reality. Due to travel restrictions, most of us are unable to visit our parents at our home or even to travel to different states. For example, right now I'm living in 2 different states from my family, and since lockdown has been introduced in Malaysia, I've not seen them for about 4 months already, physically. So I would like to acknowledge this. Most of us may have aging parents, okay? And the concerns that you have are valid. What I would say is, number one, utilize technology as much as you can, okay, at this point of time. If you have aging or ailing parents, please rope in support in terms of hospice care or any form of support. That will at least give you a peace of mind, okay, to know that at least someone out there that you can trust to take care of your parents, okay, and perhaps have someone who can teach them how to use technology as well, okay. On certain cases, if, for example, you're concerned that because older people are generally considered as the most vulnerable when it comes to the pandemic situation, sharing with them knowledge, okay, news, valid sources of medical information will help either way to, I'll say for lack of better word, keep them informed, because there's different kinds of older parents, I would say. One who would say, it's okay, I don't care, or those who are very tied up with the conspiracy theories, where every minute they'll be messaging you and say like, oh, you must do this, you must do this, you must do this. Yeah. So you are not alone in this. I guess millions of other people are going through there. So one of the only things I can think of is through technology. So I hope that answers your question. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Melanie. I think you've sort of, reflected and responded to so many people's worries, actually, because there are people in the metro cities or maybe in the other towns who have their, parents in different places and just not able to, and especially with the lockdown and all of that, there's been so much of restriction, and this is a very pertinent response. So thanks so much to all the speakers, and for each one of you having added value with your own experiences and brought brought a clarity to the whole picture around this. And specifically for me, I've got a lot of takeaways which I want to start practicing after this webinar. So thanks to all of you once again, and with this we look forward to more interactions later. And thanks to all the attendees who've been, and I hope you have actually sort of got a lot of takeaways from this session, and look forward to more from SCIKEY. Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank
Thanks.
you.